But then something changed. In the 2010s, they realized if we want to lead the world in business, we must also lead in human values. So they started making major changes. Wage increases across the U.S., raising base pay above national standards education benefits, partnered with colleges, launched programs helping employees earn degrees while working, paid most tuition, allowed flexible hours sustainability commitments, began a journey toward environmental responsibility, reducing plastic packaging, investing in clean energy, setting goals to cut carbon emissions, working with farmers to improve agricultural practices. They'd moved beyond just low prices. They were now trying to offer a better future. Part 11. The Greatest Challenge by the mid-2000s. They faced their greatest challenge yet. Amazon. The online giant was beating them in home delivery, digital convenience, e-commerce dominance. Their physical stores remained strong, but more people were shopping from phones. They had two choices: play safe and protect their existing empire, take a risk and transform into a new kind of company. They chose transformation. They invested billions into buying e-commerce companies to compete with Amazon, launching their own membership service like Prime, building online grocery delivery systems, upgrading all stores to become smart stores, training thousands of workers in digital tools, AI, logistics, and robotics. They were no longer just a physical retailer. They were becoming a technology-driven service company, but still keeping their heart in low prices and human service. Entering healthcare. In the 2020s, they shocked the world again by entering healthcare. They began opening health clinics inside stores, offering low-cost doctor visits, dental care, mental health counseling, partnerships with health insurance companies, affordable prescription programs. Why? Because Samuel had said decades earlier, we're not in the retail business. We're in the people business, and healthcare was the next frontier in helping people live better. The pandemic test. When COVID-19 hit in 2020, everything stopped. Stores closed. Supply chains collapsed. Fear spread, but they had to keep going because they sold food, medicine, household essentials. They were declared an essential service and stayed open while others shut down. The challenge was enormous. Protect workers from infection, keep stores stocked while supply chains broke, handle angry. Scared, confused customers manage operations across 25 countries, each with different rules, but they responded quickly, installed protective barriers for cashiers, distributed masks and safety kits, gave bonuses to employees, increased online services and delivery options offered. Vaccination centers inside stores. It wasn't perfect, but it showed one thing: when the world panicked, they kept serving, closing, the real legacy. Samuel Walton didn't just build stores. He didn't just create jobs. He didn't just cut prices. He built a belief system, a way of living that said, stay humble even if you become powerful. Put people first even when profits grow. Act like an owner even if you're just starting. Never stop learning even when you succeed. He believed in everyday people, not celebrities, not CEOs, not billionaires, but the worker, the mother, the farmer, the truck driver, the high school student, and he proved one simple truth. You don't need to be born rich to change the world. You just need a vehicle, a plan, and a reason that matters. Today, the company is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, employs millions of people, and serves entire nations. But somewhere in Bentonville, Arkansas, the old Walton 5 and 10 store still stands. Visitors come every day. They walk through the tiny aisles. They see Samuel's handwritten notes, his pickup truck, his favorite dog's picture, his old desk, and they realize it all began here. No money, no power, no fame, just a dream to make things better for others. Final reflection: this isn't just a company's journey. This is a human journey. It's about how far you can go if you never give up. It's about doing things the hard way, the honest way. It's about building something so authentic that even after you're gone, it keeps helping people live better. And that is the real success of Samuel Walton. Not the stores, not the numbers, not the wealth, but the truth that you can come from nothing and still give everything. That's a lesson worth remembering. That's a story worth sharing. And that's why this tale matters, not just for business, but for life itself. But what shocked the world: he never moved into a mansion, never wore gold watches, never hired bodyguards. He lived in the same modest house, walked alone into stores, and kept asking the same questions. What are customers saying? How can we make it cheaper? What's not working? People called him eccentric, but Samuel called it discipline. Going global. In 1991, the company made another bold move: international expansion. Starting with Mexico, many thought this was foolish. Retail is local. Cultures differ. Supply chains are complex, but they studied markets, adapted models, partnered with local businesses. By 1992, operations launched in Mexico, eventually becoming one of Latin America's largest retail operations. Over the next decade, they expanded to Canada, China, Chile, Brazil, Argentina, India, and the United Kingdom, not by forcing American systems everywhere, but by listening, adjusting, and respecting local needs. The goal remained constant: low prices every day, everywhere. Part 8. The final chapter. In 1992, Samuel Walton did something unexpected. He wrote a book, not for fame or money, but to explain his values before time ran out. The book was called Made in America: My Story. It wasn't filled with business theories or leadership fluff. It contained real stories, failures, early decisions, and his raw, honest philosophy: never become arrogant. Always think like the customer. Respect your people. Keep costs low. Always learn. The book became a bestseller, not just because of the story, but because of the truth behind the success. The final honor. In 1990, when the company was dominating retail, Samuel received terrible news. He was diagnosed with bone cancer. But Samuel didn't tell the world immediately. He didn't stop working. He didn't disappear. He continued visiting stores, writing his book, training his people. He once said, "I don't know how much time I have, but I know what I'm here to do. And I'm not finished yet." Even in pain, he traveled across America meeting associates. He didn't want to be remembered as someone who gave up. He wanted to be remembered as someone who gave everything. In March 1992, just 1 month before his death, Samuel Walton received America's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. At the ceremony, he was weak, sitting in a wheelchair, but his words were strong. He held the award in frail hands and said, "If we work together, we'll give the world an opportunity to live better every single day." America stood and applauded, not for a rich man, not for a businessman, but for a simple store owner who never stopped serving. Part 9. The legacy continues. Just weeks later, on April 5, 1992, at age 74, Samuel Walton passed away in Little Rock, Arkansas. The man who had revolutionized retail, built an empire of savings, and never stopped serving was gone. The news shook the nation. Stores across America paused. Flags lowered. Employees cried. Customers left notes at entrances. People who'd never met him, from small towns to major cities, said the same thing. He changed how we live. He changed how we shop. He changed what we believe is possible. But what happened next was more important. The company didn't collapse. It didn't slow down. It didn't become confused or lost. Why? Because Samuel Walton had built a system, not a personality cult. His entire life, he'd trained leaders, built processes, created a culture of simplicity, service, and savings. He didn't want the company to depend on him. He wanted it to outlive him, and it did. After Samuel's death, leadership didn't fall into chaos. It was already planned. His son Rob took over as chairman, but Rob didn't try to become Samuel. He respected the culture, honored the systems, kept the mission intact. Executives were already trained under Samuel's principles. Keep prices low. Expand carefully. Respect the associates. Use data, not ego. Stay humble no matter how large you become. The numbers tell the story. In 1992, the year Samuel died, annual revenue exceeded $43 billion, but that was just the beginning. Over the next 8 years, revenue more than doubled: $67 billion by 1995, $100 billion by 1999, and $150 billion by 2002. The company was selling more in a single year than the entire GDP of some small countries. It had become the world's largest retailer, but it didn't happen by magic. The strategy remained the same, but the tools grew smarter. The technology advantage. Every time a customer scanned a product at checkout, that information transmitted directly to headquarters. Computers tracked inventory, sales trends, delivery times. If a shelf was running low on diapers in Ohio, the system automatically restocked from the nearest warehouse. This system became so advanced that the supply chain was called the most sophisticated in the world, even. The US military studied their logistics to understand how to move supplies faster. This wasn't just retail. This was intelligence at the speed of the customer. Global expansion accelerates. After Samuel's passing, the company didn't just expand in America, it went global with intelligence and speed. Mexico became the country's largest retailer with over 2,500 stores by the 2000s. Canada entered in 1994 by acquiring 122 stores, becoming market leader within 2 years. United Kingdom purchased a major supermarket chain in 1999, becoming a top competitor overnight. China, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, India entered each market with different strategies, sometimes building stores, sometimes buying existing chains, sometimes forming partnerships. The goal wasn't to Americanize the world, but to bring efficiency and pricing to local systems, local suppliers, local workers, local preferences, but with their efficiency and pricing model. Part 10. The Modern Era. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, new competition emerged, not from physical stores, but from the internet. Companies like Amazon offered online shopping, fast delivery, lower prices. The company could have ignored it, but instead adapted, launched their website in 2000, built a complete e-commerce team, created online pickup systems where people could buy online and collect in-store, partnered with tech companies for warehouse automation. They knew the future would be digital. But customers still wanted the promise, low prices every day, no matter how you shop. Not everything was perfect. The company failed in Germany, where its culture didn't match local shopping habits. It struggled in South Korea and had to exit. It faced legal challenges, employee strikes, environmental criticism, but unlike arrogant corporations, they listened. They studied failures. They adjusted course. They weren't pretending perfection. They were learning fast, acting faster, always moving forward. In 2018, a historic milestone, the company did something no other company had ever done. It crossed $500 billion in sales in a single year, $500 billion in just 12 months. No retailer, no tech company, no brand had ever sold so much in such a short time. They became number one on the Fortune Global 500 list, the world's largest private employer with over 2.3 million employees, a brand operating in over 25 countries, serving hundreds of millions weekly. But with this success came new questions, new problems, new pressure. The responsibility era. As they grew, so did their responsibility. People asked, why are wages so low? Why do some employees rely on government aid? Why do full-time workers still struggle to survive? Protests began. Documentaries were made. Activists stood outside holding signs. Critics said, they're saving customers money but costing workers their dignity. These weren't just attacks. They were real concerns from real people who'd given years to the company. For a while, the company was slow to respond. They were growing so fast, building stores so quickly, adapting to so many countries, they forgot to look inward. And in 1962, Samuel Walton opened the first ever discount city in Rogers, Arkansas. The store measured 15,000 square feet, substantial for that era, though modest by today's standards. No automatic doors, no digital displays, no major promotions. Just shelves stocked with discounted products, clothing, electronics, groceries, everything cheaper than competitors. People were curious. Some laughed. Some predicted failure. Then they stepped inside. They saw the prices. They saw the variety. They saw the integrity, and they returned, not once, but weekly, bringing families, neighbors, entire communities. Sales climbed. Word spread rapidly. Customers weren't merely customers anymore. They became advocates. Part 3. The revolutionary system. Samuel didn't build his empire alone. Helen participated in every major decision. His brother James joined the business. Soon his children contributed too. This wasn't a corporate empire constructed by executives in glass towers. It was a family enterprise built on trust, effort, and simplicity. Samuel believed in employee ownership. He gave store managers partial ownership stakes. When they helped stores grow, their earnings increased. This made everyone think like owners, not merely workers. By the decade's end, the company had expanded to 18 locations. That wasn't just rapid growth, it was explosive. But more important than quantity was methodology. Each store followed Samuel's principles. Prices lower than anyone, locally friendly staff who genuinely cared, clean. Organized presentation managers trained as leaders, a community atmosphere. People didn't feel like customers. They felt like family. Samuel ensured every new store remained within driving distance so he could personally visit, inspect, and improve them. He wasn't building a business. He was building a movement. While others pursued prestigious offices and media attention, Samuel Walton focused on three things. 1. Drive a used truck, not a luxury vehicle. He wanted employees to know he was one of them. 2. Focus on saving pennies, not spending dollars. He traveled economy class, shared hotel rooms, reused office supplies. 3. Keep learning like a beginner. He read reports, visited stores, and spoke to janitors with the same respect as vice presidents. He often said, "The moment you think you're too important to learn is the moment you start failing." Part 4. The machine that changed retail by the early 1970s. The company wasn't just a clever concept anymore. It had become a growing machine of value, a quiet rebellion against overpriced goods, poor service, and outdated retail practices. The machine was getting smarter, faster, and more formidable for every competitor. Samuel Walton wasn't satisfied. He didn't wake up thinking, how many stores can we open? Instead, he asked, how can we open stores faster, better, and smarter than anyone in history? He wasn't thinking like a shopkeeper anymore. He was thinking like an architect of nationwide transformation. Most businessmen grow sequentially. 1 store, then 2, then 10. Samuel Walton grew 1 store, then started building systems. He understood something others didn't. If you want rapid growth, you can't simply duplicate stores. You must build the machine that creates stores. While the world focused on flashy branding and expansion, Samuel focused on logistics, distribution, and information systems. This mindset birthed a new kind of company, not just a retailer, but a retail engine. In 1970, the company made a shocking decision. Instead of relying on third-party distributors like most retailers, Samuel decided to build his own supply chain, their own trucks, their own warehouses, their own drivers, their own control. Why? Because outside companies didn't care about their mission. They delivered slowly, charged more, didn't listen. Samuel said, if we want to control our prices, we must first control our products. In 1971, they built their first distribution center in Bentonville, not merely a storage building, but a command center where products from nationwide were received, sorted, and shipped to stores with military-level efficiency. Every product arrived. Every product departed. No delays, no middlemen, because they owned it. Costs were lower, speed was faster, accuracy was nearly perfect. Over time, they built more hubs, a powerful network of warehouses and roads connecting small towns to big savings in record time. Nobody had ever done this at such scale for discount retail. The technology revolution. Most people don't realize this, but the company was among America's first retailers to use satellite communication in the late 1970s, when even major banks didn't use computers for real-time data. They installed satellite dishes on store and warehouse rooftops, connecting every location to headquarters. What did this mean? Every time a product sold in Texas, headquarters in Arkansas knew immediately and could restock or adjust prices in real time. This was decades ahead of the competition. It transformed the company from a chain of stores into a living, breathing network. Retail is detail, Samuel said, and we will know every detail every single hour. Part 5. Going public and going big. In 1972, with approximately 50 stores, Samuel Walton made another bold move. He took the company public, selling shares on the stock market. Why? Not to get rich or retire, but to raise capital for faster expansion. This brought millions of dollars, which Samuel used to build more warehouses, purchase land for future stores, improve technology, hire better managers, and train employees better. The company's stock price climbed steadily. But Samuel didn't buy luxury cars or gold watches. He drove his beat-up truck, ate breakfast at inexpensive diners, wore simple clothes because the company's money belonged to the mission. The superstore innovation in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Samuel noticed people disliked driving between grocery stores, pharmacies, clothing shops, and hardware stores. What if, he thought, we put everything under one roof? Not just clothes or electronics, but food, pharmacy, garden tools, toys, everything. That's when they launched supercenters, massive stores where a parent could fuel their car, buy diapers, grab fresh vegetables, select birthday gifts, collect medicine, purchase children's clothes, and return home before dinner. This became their signature style, low prices plus maximum convenience. It worked spectacularly. People stopped shopping at 5 stores. They simply went to the supercenter, the associate philosophy. Samuel knew one truth: happy employees create happy customers. Instead of calling them employees, he called them associates, treating them like co-owners. He created an employee stock purchase program allowing even janitors to buy company shares. He visited stores unannounced, talked to cashiers, asked about their families, and listened carefully. He believed ideas didn't come from boardrooms. They came from shelf stockers who saw what was missing, cashiers who heard customer complaints, store managers who watched people daily. This created a bottom-up culture where everyone felt responsible for the company's success. Part 6. Confronting Success and Criticism by. The mid-1980s, the company had grown to hundreds of stores, billions in revenue, thousands of employees. Samuel Walton was named Retailer of the Year, became one of America's wealthiest individuals. A business icon globally, but he still refused luxury. He still lived in the same modest Bentonville house, still wore a baseball cap, still stood in checkout lines, and most importantly, he still believed in serving people first. However, with great size came great scrutiny. Success creates admirers, but it also creates critics. The company was now watched by media, unions, small business owners, city planners, academics, even politicians. They said, "This company is destroying small businesses. It's too powerful. Wages are too low. It's killing Main Street." While some criticisms held truth, many were oversimplified. Samuel wasn't trying to destroy anything. He was trying to serve more people at better prices, but he knew something important. When you grow fast, you'll be misunderstood. Instead of defending himself through fancy interviews, he continued doing what he'd always done best: visiting stores, listening to associates, walking through aisles, shaking hands, taking notes. The response strategy. The company didn't fight criticism with public relations. They studied it. When people said they hurt small businesses, Samuel's team collected genuine customer feedback from hundreds of towns, demonstrating that in most areas, people saved 20 to 30% annually by shopping there. When people said wages were too low, they expanded their stock-sharing program, making thousands of employees actual owners. By decade's end, over 120,000 employees owned company stock, many becoming millionaires simply by working hard and believing in the mission. That was Samuel's quiet answer. Don't fight critics with words. Let the work speak. The cluster strategy. Let's understand how they scaled so quickly while others failed to stop them. Samuel used a cluster strategy. Instead of opening random stores across America, he expanded in concentric circles around existing locations. Why? This reduced fuel costs, delivery times, management expenses while increasing efficiency, regional brand awareness, and loyalty from neighboring towns. Part 7. Becoming America's Richest in 1985. Something extraordinary occurred. A major business magazine released its annual list of America's wealthiest individuals. Sitting at number 1 wasn't a Hollywood star, a Wall Street banker, or a tech founder. It was Samuel Walton, the man from Bentonville who still ate breakfast at the local diner. His net worth was listed at $2.8 billion in 1985, over $8 billion in today's currency. By the early 1990s, his wealth exceeded $25 billion. This is more than a business tale. This is a story about transformation, about a young man from humble beginnings who had no wealth, no influential contacts, just an unwavering vision, a weathered pickup truck, and a determination that refused to break. This is about someone who ventured into forgotten communities and constructed something larger than the empires of financial giants. He didn't dress in expensive suits or speak like the wealthy elite. He drove his own vehicle, personally inspected every location, and treated shoppers like neighbors. He became America's wealthiest individual, not through deception or chance, but by grasping one fundamental principle: help people spend less, and you help them live better. This narrative will transform your understanding of achievement. You'll discover how one visionary created the planet's most dominant retail operation with thousands upon thousands of locations, millions of team members, and countless customers served weekly. But there's more. This story will also strengthen your English comprehension. You'll encounter authentic vocabulary, compelling storytelling techniques, and genuine inspiration, all delivered in straightforward, powerful language. This isn't merely a history lesson. It's your listening exercise, your language development tool, and your motivational breakthrough, all combined. So, prepare yourself to experience one of the most moving and unforgettable success stories ever. Shared, this is the story of a man who transformed the world with determination, strategy, and a simple truck. Let's begin. Part 1. The Modest Beginnings. Before the empire existed, before the fortune accumulated, before his name became legendary, there was simply a boy named Samuel Moore Walton. Born in late March 1918 in a tiny Oklahoma settlement barely visible on most maps, his family wasn't privileged. They struggled through America's Great Depression when countless families lost employment, homes, and savings. His father worked as a farm loan assessor, a position requiring constant relocation. His mother was a resilient woman who valued education and diligence above all else. Samuel had one younger brother, James. Together they grew up understanding that nothing came guaranteed. Luxuries didn't exist in their world, but character did, forged through daily chores, selling dairy products, and rising before dawn to contribute. Young Samuel despised wasting time. He managed newspaper delivery routes before school. He milked cows at sunrise. He joined the Scouts and earned the highest rank at a remarkably young age. From the start, he desired more than mere survival. He wanted excellence, not for recognition, but for purpose. Samuel wasn't exceptionally gifted by birth. He possessed no inherited wealth or authority, but he had two invaluable qualities: an insatiable appetite for knowledge and a genuine affection for people. During secondary school, he participated in multiple sports, not because he was naturally talented, but because he never surrendered. He stayed late, practiced longer, and consistently gave maximum effort. Even through failure, he persisted. After graduation, he couldn't afford an elite university, but determination drove him forward. He borrowed funds to attend the state university, studying economics while working various jobs to cover expenses, waiting tables, cleaning, managing his schedule with military precision. At 22, he completed his degree. Then came global conflict. The Second World War had erupted, and like countless young Americans, Samuel enlisted in military intelligence, serving honorably. During this period, not in classrooms or offices, but during wartime, he learned his most crucial lesson. Details matter. People matter. Think strategically, but serve with humanity. Following the war, Samuel married Helen Robson, an intelligent, confident, no-nonsense woman from a comfortable Oklahoma family. Helen wasn't merely a supportive spouse, she was the foundation of Samuel's journey. She challenged him, encouraged him, and made one thing crystal clear: we won't waste our lives. We'll build something significant or exhaust ourselves trying. With $5,000 from savings and $20,000 borrowed from his father-in-law, Samuel purchased a small variety store in Newport, Arkansas. He was 26 years old with zero business experience and no major investors, just an ambition to serve customers better than anyone previously had. He worked continuously, from opening until closing, checking every price marker, conversing with every shopper, personally cleaning floors, and studying competitors like a detective. Samuel didn't simply want to sell merchandise. He wanted to understand human behavior. He would drive for hours to visit competing establishments, documenting everything: store layout, pricing strategies, customer patterns. He wasn't afraid to learn from others, even rivals. While most proprietors increased prices to boost profits, Samuel did the reverse. He reduced prices to earn customer loyalty. People thought he was foolish. Why diminish your own earnings? They questioned. But Samuel understood something they didn't. When you offer people genuine value, they return, and they bring friends. This was the beginning of a revolution. Just when success seemed certain, his store thriving, profits growing, community support strong, disaster struck. He didn't own the building. He'd only signed a 5-year lease. When those 5 years concluded, the property owner refused renewal and reclaimed the store. Why? Because the landlord recognized how profitable Samuel's methods were and wanted the business for his own son. Samuel lost everything: the location, the brand recognition, the customer base. Years of effort vanished. He could have surrendered. He could have complained, mourned, or quit. Instead, he took a deep breath, packed his belongings, and relocated to a small town called Bentonville, Arkansas. There, with fierce determination and nothing but his intellect and his wife's support, he opened a new store. That store would eventually become the first location of his empire. The year was 1950. Part 2. Building the foundation. Bentonville wasn't a destination for the ambitious. It wasn't a metropolitan center with wealthy investors. It was a quiet little community with one main street, a few farmers, some teachers, and abundant dreams. But for Samuel Walton, Bentonville represented a blank canvas. He rented a modest building and opened a store called Walton's 5 and 10. Nothing flashy, no enormous signage, no grand celebration. Just Samuel, Helen, and a shop filled with everyday items: socks, school supplies, cleaning products, candy, toys. But one element made this establishment different. Not the location, not the pricing, not the size. It was Samuel's obsession with people. From day one, he operated with a system, though he never called it that. It became the foundation of his future empire's success. The 3 pillars. First, serve customers like family. He didn't merely greet people. He walked them to shelves, carried their purchases, asked what they disliked, and corrected problems. He believed customers weren't just the reason for success, they were success itself. Second, purchase inexpensively, sell cheaper, profit through volume. This approach was radical. Most stores sought substantial profit per item. Samuel wanted minimal profit on numerous items. Rather than selling 100 shirts with $5 profit each, he'd sell 10,000 shirts, earning 50 cents each. He once explained, "If we reduce prices by 1 cent and sell 1 million units, that's $10,000 saved by our customers." They'll remember that forever. Third, never stop learning from others. Samuel visited competing stores every weekend, carrying notebooks, documenting ideas, designs, product arrangements. He never pretended omniscience. He believed that ethically studying others' methods and improving upon them wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. What distinguished him from typical businessmen? Even after establishing multiple locations, Samuel drove hundreds of miles on weekends to visit competitor establishments, walking inside as an ordinary shopper, observing aisles, prices, customer service, taking handwritten notes, sometimes 10 pages daily, then immediately implementing those insights. He didn't sit in offices. He lived on the ground, inside his stores, among real people. He called it retail education, not from universities, but from reality. By the late 1950s, Samuel operated several small stores, all performing well. But something troubled him. He realized that most rural American communities were ignored by major retailers. Large chains only served big cities. Small towns endured high prices, limited selection, and poor service. Samuel recognized the gap and the opportunity. What if, he thought, we build a large store in a small town offering low prices, extensive variety, and excellent service? Wouldn't people travel from miles around? It was risky. Investors laughed. Established businessmen scoffed. That'll never succeed. Rural people don't spend much. But Samuel didn't listen. He'd observed enough. He knew rural America craved value and nobody was serving them properly. He gathered courage, convinced Helen, borrowed money.